Bastards! Today I want to talk about archery for preppers, because what's the point of archery in a time when we have like modern guns that can do much better? So I think archery has still a valuable place in your home preparedness, or even in a bug out situation, to be honest. I'm gonna talk about that later, but first, uh, archery uh, is one of those skills that has many benefits. Uh, Examples: uh, you can hunt small game, which can and make some extra food when times are hard. Second, home defense, very important. You may think, how would I use a bow and arrow inside of my house? Well, I would say it's better than nothing, and it will keep someone at bay, to say, because like in contrary to what many people think, arrows do not kill immediately. People usually during the medieval times, people died because of two things that happened. Most of the times, it was because the arrows were stuck in the ground before launching, or they were unhygienic. So people who got hit by arrows got infected. Again, they got infections that killed them in the long run. So that's a way most people died that got hit by arrows. Second thing is when you use arrows with plates. How do you say this? With flats, with a flat arrow point. Those cut through muscle, nerves, and blood vessels. So in that way, somebody could die of a hit by an arrow, but not immediately, because it will take some time before somebody has bleed out. So that's something to take in consideration. Um, yeah, home defense. It's also good in how do you say it, for long term home defense. What do I mean by that? Uh, when you have a gun and you have ammo, when you shot the ammo, it will not come back. Even if you can refill the cases and make your own bullets, you still need gunpowder, metal, and tools to make it. Uh, that's the plus point of the arrow. Once you shot an arrow, you can just retrieve it when you miss it, or when you got your game that perhaps still has the arrow inside of it. So that's a way for a benefit of a bow and arrow. Another benefit is legality, because not everyone can buy or get uh, how do you say this? They cannot get a permit for a gun by the local authorities. So this is a legal way for home defense, for a hunting tool, and last but not least, I would say just recreation, because when when the times are hard and you cannot get out, like during a pandemic in the COVID virus, we could not get out. Uh, Perhaps we could not go into sporting clubs and such. So that's another way you can utilize this tool for just having fun without costing a lot of money. So next thing I was talking about sport. Sport is recreation, but it's also a way to train your body and your mind, because when you're shooting when you do archery, you train your muscles inside of your body, and you train also your mind, because many people think it's just something you do, but archery is also a way of the mind. You have to calculate. You got to calculate the distance, calculate the speed, of perhaps a moving target. You have to control your mind and your body. So that's another way and a benefit of archery, to keep in shape and keep your mental well-being up. Um, what's next? I was talking about the how do you say this? The bow that I use, that I prefer, is this. It's an English longbow. Like you can perhaps see, it's the same height as me, so it's a big arrow, so it's not useful for in uh, close and spaces. So, but I prefer this because I can shoot 328 meters away with this thing. But it's also very accurate on close distances. You probably noticed the carabine hooks I put these. Why? Because I can put a leash on it, like a sling of a rifle, and carry this on my back without um, doing damage to the, how do you say this? The piece. We call it the piece, but you know, the sling of the bow. So I don't like when people are wearing it like this, because it could damage the sling which you pull the arrow with. So that's a way to preserve your bow. I'll put this right here. Another thing is, this is where the bug out arrow comes in handy. You see, you can unscrew these things, and these two lats, pieces of wood, get loose, and you can put it in your bug out bag with a small size. And when you're going to hunt during a bug out, you can put it together, and you still have a sizable bow. That's where the next thing comes in. This doesn't fall. Nope. Arrows. Dependent on what type of thing you're going to do with your bow and arrow, I would say if just for prepping, to be prepared, sporting arrow is good enough. If you hit a wild game with it, it will wound it and you will catch it easily. And it's also good for recreational. For home defense, it will penetrate, but for really determined in for combat situations, I would suggest to screw the tops off and put one of those sharpened flat arrowheads on it for more damage and perhaps more intimidation, because when you see a burglar or a robber or a looter or attacker, who knows, when they see you with this, they probably think, perhaps I'll take my chances. But when they see a big flat piece of sharp of metal pointing their way, they will think, I will not get in the way of that guy. So that's just something to think about. Another mistake a lot of people make is, some people just like it. I like it for recreational use. A quiver where you put your arrowhead in, put it on your back, and like you will see in the clip, I can easily take it out and shoot it. But you have to keep in mind, this is a large thing. Perhaps you can, in a bug out situation, you can put other things on it just to save space. And actually, you don't need that many arrows. Actually, most people think about like things like how is that superhero called? The Arrow or Robin Hood. They have a quiver with like 60 arrows. That's perhaps handy in medieval time when you were doing battle, but when you're hunting, you don't. Yeah, you count on your first shot to be a hit, to get as close to your prey as possible. So you don't get many chances, and if you miss, you can still retrieve it. So what you see people like in Africa, like the savannah hunters do? They just take a few arrows and they just hold it like this, and when they see a wild game, they take one arrow and they shoot when they need. So you don't need a whole quiver when you go hunting. 1, 2, perhaps 3 arrows when you feel insecure about your archery skills are usually sufficient. So that's another thing to think about. Um, um, yeah, I think that's oh, another thing is safety. I always wear gloves when I'm shooting arrows because why? Especially with the longbow, because um, when you shoot an arrow, you have to pull the string back, and it will put pressure on your fingers. So especially with a strong bow like the English longbow, when you pull it, it gets a lot of strain on your fingers. So always a glove for pulling it. You can have like those specially 3-finger gloves, but I prefer the gloves I already have. And another thing is a glove for where you rest your arrow, because when you pull, the arrow will fly across your hand, and the feathers will scrape across your hand. And that will eventually, when you shoot many arrows, it will start to cut or get burning wounds on it. So you don't really want that. So for your protection and accuracy, wear gloves. Another thing with the English longbow is you need some protection. Like I just wear my clothes, or you can use some leather patch around your pulse or arm, underarm, because the string will slide when you release. The string will slide right next to your arm, and it will hurt like hell. I had the unfortunate incident a few days ago where I had to shoot arrows on a carnival, and I didn't have my protection or any a long coat, so you probably will not see it. But here's still a big bruise from from those 6 or 5 arrows that I shot that day. So always wear protection, especially in a survival situation, because you don't want to get a cut, scrape, and get an infection. So that would be ironically in front of what I said about the deadliness of arrowheads. So, and last thing, practice. If you don't have terrain for an arrow, even a small yard can help you get your physical in order, even if it's like 5 meters. Just practice on something very small, and then you can work your way to longer distances. Go to a friend, go to a family member, go to a sport club or something else where they have longer distancing to train your archery skills. And that's about it. You probably will now see a clip of me giving a demonstration on how to shoot with the English longbow in a short distance with the quiver on my back. So by the power of editing, you will now see my archery skills. So that was my archery skills. I'm not the best shot there is, but I'm secure about I would hit something at least. So just do it for fun, do it to prepare, do it to keep in shape. I hope you got some ideas from this video. You learned something, got inspired to do some sport like archery. Thank you for watching. Leave a comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff, I guess. So see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.